I was at the absolute bottom, broke, homeless, and my heart was shattered into pieces. My girlfriend left me for a rich guy in an Audi, mocking my pathetic life. I had nothing left but a tiny room and a router that barely worked. Then a freak bolt of lightning struck, surging through the wires and into my brain. I woke up bound to the Myriad realm's almighty shopping system. It sounded perfect, except for one thing. The system is completely broken and riddled with critical errors. But in my world, a bug is not a problem, it is a golden opportunity. A simple task to spend 10 yuan suddenly rewarded me with 10 million in cash. The system mall is a glitchy paradise where god-tier items cost next to nothing. High-tech gear, legendary cultivation arts, and luxury villas are all just a click away. I can identify any secret and cultivate energy that adapts to any power in existence. I traded my tattered clothes for a Lamborghini and my misery for absolute power. The people who stepped on me have no idea what is coming for them now. I am no longer the loser of this city. I am the glitch in the matrix. I am ready to exploit every single error to climb to the very top. Now, let me show you how this chaotic journey actually began. Buckle up, because things are about to get extremely expensive for my enemies. This is the story of how I hacked my way to a new life. Let us dive into the first chapters of my glitchy ascent. Here is exactly how it all went down. My name is Lin Feng. My morning started with the usual screaming from my landlord demanding the overdue rent. She is a total nightmare, threatening to throw me and all my belongings onto the street by this afternoon. My apartment is tiny and depressing. There is no kitchen, no TV, and the internet is practically useless. I was not always this broke, but I spent every cent of my savings on a special birthday gift. I wanted to surprise my girlfriend, Xiao Chunmei, but she had a surprise of her own waiting for me. She was leaning intimately against a rich man in a luxury Audi, looking at me with complete indifference. She told me we were from different worlds and that I was no longer suitable for her life. The man mocked my custom cake and stepped all over it, laughing at my poverty before driving away. I knelt in the dirt, clutching the beautiful necklace I had worked so hard to buy for her. In that moment of powerlessness, I made a vow that she would one day deeply regret her decision. After a sleepless night, I tried to find a cheaper place to live, but my broken router had no signal. As I reached for the device, a sudden bolt of lightning struck from a clear sky, hitting the router. A massive electric current blasted through my phone and knocked me against the wall, leaving me unconscious. As I faded out, a mechanical voice echoed in my mind, announcing the activation of a mysterious system. It was the Myriad realm's almighty shopping system, and I was being bound as its new host. Then, a strange error occurred. Instead of one novice gift pack, the system glitched and gave me 3. I woke up feeling absolutely miserable, my whole body sore and aching as I slowly opened my eyes in a daze. I remember the sudden shock of electricity blasting through me. I really need to move out of this crappy, dangerous apartment. Suddenly, a voice echoed in my head, welcoming me to the Wanji almighty shopping system. I nearly jumped out of my skin. At first, I thought a thief had broken in. I yelled for them to come out, boasting that I had nothing valuable. My confidence vanished when my neighbor started screaming at me from next door to shut up. It was incredibly embarrassing. Then the system triggered its first task. All I had to do was get 10 yuan and spend it. The reward was already huge, but then a glitch happened. The prize jumped from 100 million to 1 billion yuan. I slapped myself hard to make sure I was not dreaming. It hurt, which meant this system was actually real. The system warned me that it was full of errors and would need points to be repaired in the future. Repair it? No way. I love these bugs. Why would I ever fix something this broken and incredibly profitable? I explored the system mall and found a gold mine. Some prices were blue and expensive, while others were red and cheap. I could buy a Lamborghini for 2 points or a villa for 3. There were even martial arts and cultivation cheats. The system explained that I can exchange normal currency for points, with 1 yuan equaling exactly 1 point. I tried to push my luck by asking if the system accepted ghost money. That turned out to be a mistake. The system threatened to send me to the afterlife personally. I quickly apologized, realizing I should stop teasing my benefactor. I realized my system was riddled with bugs, but instead of panicking, I saw a massive opportunity. The current mission was simple. I had to get 10 yuan from someone else and then spend it. I couldn't use my own cash, so I rushed to a local shop to trade a 50 for 5 tens. By getting those bills from the shopkeeper, I had successfully completed the first half of the system's task. Now I just had to spend the money. I decided to buy 2 loaves of bread to finish it. Trying to act like a big shot, I gave the boss 20 yuan and told him to keep the change. But the boss just looked at me like an idiot. It was imported bread, and I actually owed him 10 more. I was beyond embarrassed, but as I hurried out, the system finally chimed in my head. The task was complete. I had just earned 10 million yuan and 100 system points. My phone buzzed with a bank notification confirming the balance. This was actually happening. I wasn't dreaming. I felt a strange surge of gratitude toward my broken house and landlord for bringing me to this moment. While the money was great, points were the real prize. I immediately spent some on a Lamborghini and martial arts. The system is incredibly conscientious, providing all the legal certificates and even a 7-day warranty on items. Then I opened my beginner gift packs. I scored shares in a bar, a seaside villa, and even more funds. Most importantly, I obtained the appraisal technique and the Wanji Ju, a legendary cultivation method. The knowledge of these skills flooded my mind instantly. I could now sense a universal energy source. However, my current body was too weak to handle these powers. I desperately needed the bodybuilding pill first. My current rental was far too noisy for cultivation, so I decided to move to my new seaside villa. Before leaving, I summoned my new ride. A sleek yellow Lamborghini appeared out of thin air before me. I tested my appraisal skill on the car, and a blue scanning light revealed every single technical detail. It was a limited edition Aventador SVJ63 worth over 9 million yuan, fully registered and ready to drive. I stared at the system's identification reports in disbelief. It was incredibly thorough, covering every single detail of my new assets. But the real shock was the car. A sports car worth over 900 million yuan. I could hardly believe it. I have my driver's license, but this was different. Getting into that seat, my legs actually trembled from the pure excitement. As I roared out of my shabby rental community, the engine's scream woke up every single person in the neighborhood. People were practically falling out of their windows just to catch a glimpse of the orange-yellow Lamborghini screaming past them. The sensation of hitting 100 in a few seconds was intoxicating, though I made sure to follow the traffic laws. I loved everything about it, especially the full tank of gas. I really started to appreciate this system's extreme generosity. As I drove, I felt a change within me. For so long, I had sacrificed everything just to save a few coins. I remembered skipping simple things like a cup of Coke just to save up for gifts for my girlfriend. But now, the burden was gone. I felt younger, lighter, and suddenly, I wanted to treat myself to something fancy. I pulled up to a Starbucks, a place I used to avoid just by looking at the expensive prices. My driving school training was put to the test. It took me a few tries, but I finally parked the beast. I stepped out in my simple street clothes, complaining about the heavy doors just to sound a bit more sophisticated. I think I sounded too pretentious because a guy on a bike was so distracted he crashed into a pole. I felt a bit awkward, but he fell on his own. Besides, simply talking isn't a crime, right? Walking inside, I noticed a few women glancing my way. The car definitely gave me an aura I never had before. The clerk was professional and smiling. I didn't even look at the prices this time, just ordered 2 cold drinks. While waiting for my order, I noticed a strange new icon on my phone, a pattern of several small asteroids. The system explained it was a matching app. I could browse the system mall and have items delivered in minutes. I loved the idea of mobile shopping. It felt much more natural than just using a standard system interface. I spent the rest of my wait browsing through the Wanjadu app, curious about what else the system could provide. I was just sitting in Starbucks trying to relax when a voice I recognized far too well hit my ears. It was Xiao Chunmei, the girl who had just walked out of my life yesterday to be with someone else. Strangely, I didn't feel the anger I expected. I just watched them like a spectator in a play. She was with a man named Tai, a billiard hall owner who clearly thought he was a big shot. They were staring at a sports car outside, a limited edition Lamborghini that cost over 900 million. Tai was bragging about his knowledge of cars, completely unaware that the vehicle they admired actually belonged to me. Chunmei was already calculating her next move. She had always used people as stepping stones to reach a wealthier life. She tried to convince Tai that meeting the car's owner would be a great business opportunity for both of them. I watched their shallow dance from a distance, feeling a deep sense of nausea at how transparent they were. I felt like an elephant watching ants. I had the power to crush them, but they weren't worth it. My number finally flashed on the screen, and I stood up to collect my drink from the counter. As I approached the bar, I found myself standing right next to the two of them. Tai spotted me and immediately decided to use me as a target to boost his own fragile ego. He laughed loudly, calling me a poor ex-boyfriend who was pretending to be rich by visiting a Starbucks. Chunmei played along, acting aggrieved and claiming I was just a friend who had delusional ideas about her. A crowd started to gather, some believing the lies, while others just watched the spectacle with amusement. But there were a few people in the crowd who were smiling for a very different reason. They had seen me get out of that Lamborghini earlier, and they knew exactly what was about to happen. I pulled up in a limited edition sports car, and I could feel every eye on me. They were all wondering who I was. Most people figured I wasn't some fake renting a car. This kind of ride is far too rare and expensive for that. Then there was Brother Tai, leaning on his Porsche. He thought he was the big shot here, but he was just in my way. When he started barking at me, I looked at him like he was an idiot. I had absolutely no patience for his noise. Tai tried to act tough, demanding my name so he could block me from leaving. I just told him I was his father. As I walked away, a beautiful woman invited me to join her. She seemed genuinely interested in my bold attitude. I pretended to be hesitant, but I sat right down next to her. I might be a target, but I am not stupid. She was bold, stealing a sip of my drink before I could even react. I tried to warn her, but she didn't care. Her name was Xiao Yu, a yoga instructor with a stunning figure. We chatted a bit, and she found me quite cute. Xiao Jimei could not stand to see me happy. She wanted to tear me down because I had effectively abandoned her. Tai was fuming too. He called some thugs called Brother Leopard to come and deal with me. He thought he had me trapped. Just then, my system triggered a task. I had to defeat the thugs and humiliate both Tai and Chunmei. The reward was a spiritual power meditation method, but there was a catch. A bug actually deducted 10 points from me. It was a reminder that my system bugs are not always a blessing. I need to be careful with these glitches. I headed to the bathroom to find some privacy. My Bajiquan needs a stronger body to be truly effective in a fight. I took the bodybuilding pill immediately. It was time to upgrade my physical fitness before the real battle began. After taking the bodybuilding pill, I had one major concern. I asked my system if I would end up covered in mud. The system quickly corrected me, explaining this pill enhances physical fitness without the messy detoxification effects of a mirror washing pill. That was a relief. I could feel a surge of raw power flowing through me, my strength increasing several times over. I felt like I could smash a marble slab with a single strike of my Bajiquan. It was an exhilarating feeling. As I left the bathroom, I found a group of thugs waiting. The cashier warned me with a cold, flat tone. She didn't care about my safety, only that I wouldn't cause trouble in her shop. Her snobbery was completely obvious. Then there was Xiao Chunmei, mocking me and demanding I kneel and apologize to Brother Tai for my supposed mistakes. I just laughed it off. I had an expensive drink to finish and no intention of bowing to someone like him. I gave Xiao Yu a quick goodbye before heading out. I didn't want to break any expensive furniture inside the store. Xiao Yu seemed a bit disappointed that I didn't ask for her contact info, but I had more urgent matters at hand. Outside, Brother Tai was sucking up to a fierce-looking man called Brother Leopard, who looked like a professional thug. Brother Leopard looked at my tattered clothes and dismissed me as a nobody who was likely just after some money. He gave me a choice: kowtow and apologize right now, or lose a hand or a leg. He was completely confident. Xiao Chunmei clung to Brother Tai, acting like a loyal pet while urging me to just cooperate and submit. I told them they were mistaken, and that I would show them the true difference between a cloud and the mud. They all laughed at me, but the laughter stopped the moment Brother Leopard ordered his 4 men to attack. I moved faster than they could react, driving a fist straight into the first man's stomach with my new strength. Using Bajiquan, I used the first thug as a shield, knocking the others down in a blur of violent motion. In a matter of seconds, all 4 of them were on the ground. My bodybuilding pill had worked perfectly. I had just finished wiping out those 4 thugs in a matter of seconds, leaving everyone in a state of shock. Brother Tai and Xiao Chunmei looked at me as if I were a complete stranger, unable to process my strength. Chunmei probably thought that raw power didn't matter in a society run by money, but she was dead wrong. That was when Brother Leopard stepped in, boasting about his experience in the underground boxing arena to intimidate me. He tried to trick me with a fake punch, but I saw right through his amateur move and countered immediately. I felt his bones snap as my fist collided with his, leaving him clutching his hand in absolute agony. Despite the pain, he tried to maintain his pride, demanding to know who I actually was and where I learned to fight. I didn't give him a straight answer, simply asking if he still felt like protecting those 2 pathetic losers. Tai and Chunmei desperately tried to convince him that I was just a poor student who happened to be strong. They were terrified that their muscle would abandon them, leaving them completely vulnerable to my anger. I decided it was time to end the debate, so I pulled out my keys and pressed the unlock button. The distinct chime of my Lamborghini echoed through the air, leaving Brother Tai and the others completely speechless. Brother Leopard's expression shifted instantly. He realized Tai had lied to him about my background and status. Enraged, Leopard delivered a sharp slap to Tai's face, telling him he would settle the account for this lie later. Realizing he was outmatched in both strength and wealth, Leopard quickly retreated with his men, leaving us alone. Now it was just me and the two of them. Tai panicked, realizing he had offended someone far above his station. In a cowardly display, Tai turned his rage on Chunmei, slapping her so hard her nose went crooked. He began groveling at my feet, claiming he was just a victim of Chunmei's lies about me being a scumbag. I watched as regret washed over Chunmei. She realized she had traded a diamond for a piece of glass. She remembered how I once treated her like a princess, while now she was being humiliated in public. I looked down at them with a cold sneer. They thought a few apologies could erase yesterday's insults. I told them that regret comes far too late. Since they wanted to play games, I would be the one to end them. Mr. Tay tried to play the diplomat, telling me we should stay on good terms for the sake of the future. He suggested that fighting over a woman like her wasn't worth it, hoping I would let him off the hook. But he was mistaken. I didn't care about her at all. This was purely about his lack of respect for me. I gave him a simple choice: kneel on his own, or I would break his legs to help him do it. When he tried to push back, I didn't waste any more words. I punched him straight into unconsciousness. I hopped into my sports car, leaving that coward behind. I told the girl to take care of him. As Xiao Chunmei tried to fix some regret and cry, I gave her a face full of exhaust fumes. I felt great. I had a new home waiting for me and the chance to finally start my cultivation. I drove to the coast and saw it, my massive seaside villa. It was absolutely breathtaking to behold. It is crazy to think that most people spend their whole lives chasing a house and a car. I managed to get both overnight. I walked inside, amazed by the high-tech security and the system's preparation. The system offered to furnish the place for 30 points. At first, I thought that was a bit steep. I reminded the system that my car only cost 2 points, but it turned out that was just a bug. I realized I had been getting a steal. I accepted the price, knowing I still had 100 points. Then, the system told me another bug had occurred. The marrow washing pill was now only 5 points. I could not pass up another bargain. I also picked up some golden silkworm armor for my own safety. Suddenly, the villa transformed. Futuristic furniture and appliances from other realms appeared out of thin air. A smart AI named Xiaojia welcomed me home. It felt like I was living in a sci-fi movie. I asked Xiaojia to prepare a warm bath so I could wash away toxins after taking the pill. Finally, I stripped down and put on the golden silkworm armor. It was soft, silky, and perfectly comfortable. I started by reviewing the details of the golden silkworm armor. This thing is absolutely incredible. It's practically invulnerable to fire and water, reduces incoming damage, and even has the ability to self-heal. I can even control it to stretch, turning it into a silk rope that can extend up to 1,000 meters. After admiring my new gear, I headed up to my master bedroom on the second floor. Looking around the spacious room, I felt a wave of emotion. This is a world away from my old rental. Even the bathroom is massive, featuring a smart tub already filled with perfectly temperature-controlled, purified warm water. But I wasn't just here for a soak. I had the marrow washing pill ready for my transformation. I stripped down, stepped into the bath, and swallowed the pill. It melted quickly and tasted surprisingly mild. Soon, a warm sensation seeped from my stomach into my dantian, then surged through my meridians like a current. The medicine began purifying my blood and strengthening my physical body and mind in a straight line. At first it was just warmth, but soon it felt like my entire body had been thrown into a furnace. My meridians felt like burning fuses, and that's when the system gave me a critical prompt. By operating the Wanji Ju technique now, I could absorb the pill's full effect and break through to the master realm. I quickly began mobilizing the energy in my dantian, though I felt clumsy and unfamiliar with the movements at first. I spent 10 minutes cautiously cycling the energy through my body until the flow finally became smooth and rhythmic. For half an hour, I pushed myself, the cycles becoming faster and more efficient until the medicine's effect vanished. As I opened my eyes, I felt a complete transformation. A sense of endless strength surged through my limbs. My mind was abnormally clear, and I could feel a warmth in my dantian. This was the legendary true energy. I had reached the first stage of the Grandmaster realm, but I wanted to know exactly where I stood. The system explained that cultivation starts with the acquired realm, where practitioners rely on raw physique and martial arts. Above that is the innate realm, where you can finally use true qi to enhance your attacks. Then comes the master realm. At a certain level here, you can literally fly through the sky or hide from sight. While each realm has 10 levels, the Grandmaster realm is the true beginning of a cultivator's journey. I felt powerful, yet there was a strange emptiness in my dantian, as if I were physically hungry for more energy. The system reassured me, noting that my talent is superior and the Wanjie Ju has incredible resilience. It encouraged me to trigger more tasks and earn points to fill that void and grow even stronger. After washing off the impurities, I stepped out of the tub and walked toward the full-length mirror. I gasped at my reflection. My body was perfectly sculpted, with balanced muscles and a defined 8-pack. My skin had become unbelievably fair and clear, looking more flawless than anyone I had ever seen. I was still admiring my new self in the mirror, feeling pretty smug when my phone started ringing in the basket. After getting dressed, I checked my messages and saw that the money from the novice gift bag had been credited. I stared at the long string of zeros in my account. Strangely, I was already starting to get used to this. Then, I saw a notification from my university class group. Some of the students were planning a welcome party. I knew the drill. It was likely some rich kid trying to find a new flame by hosting a big bash. In the past, I never joined these gatherings. I was usually too broke to even consider attending them. I had spent every cent I had trying to impress a girl named Xiao Chunmei, only to be used as a meal ticket. Looking back, I realized how foolish I was. I am just glad that the relationship ended when it did. I decided it was time to be more open-minded. I did not want to become a total stranger to my classmates. I signed up for the party and put my phone away. Suddenly, a massive wave of hunger hit me. Being a cultivator takes an immense amount of energy. My body was practically screaming for something to eat. I decided to head to the roadside stalls by the beach to find something quick and filling to eat. My villa is right on the coast, offering a perfect view of the beach and the girls in their bikinis. As I stepped outside, I noticed people staring at me with expressions of pure confusion and surprise. It is not every day you see someone walking out of a multi-million-dollar villa wearing cheap, faded clothes. My old blue shirt was washed out, looking completely out of place against the luxury of the seaside neighborhood. I realized I needed to buy some new clothes since there was absolutely nothing worth packing in my rental house. As I prepared to leave, my thoughts drifted to my landlady, that stubborn woman who always acted like a shrew. I didn't like her, but I felt a strange gratitude because my encounter with the system happened because of her. Even though she nearly caused my death, she was the catalyst for the power I now possess in my hands. While walking toward the seaside food stalls, a girl's voice suddenly called out to me, breaking my train of thought. I looked around and recognized her immediately as Mo Yaje, a beautiful girl from the computer department at my school. I usually keep a very low profile, so I was surprised that someone as popular as her even knew my name. I greeted her calmly, feeling a shift in my own demeanor. I was no longer the submissive person I once was. Between the I Ching cleansing and the system, I felt an inner confidence and grace that I never had before. Mo Yaje seemed taken aback, looking at me with a strange expression, as if I were some important person of status. She told me I had changed completely, noting how my skin looked radiant, almost as if I lived in luxury. She joked that I looked more like a male god than a celebrity and almost didn't recognize me at first glance. I appreciated her natural and approachable vibe. She wasn't arrogant like other popular girls, but felt like a girl next door. I played it down, telling her I had simply become more diligent with my appearance over the last few months. Deep down, I knew the truth. I had changed so much that even I barely recognized the man in the mirror. Mo Yaje laughed, warning me that my new look would attract too many wolf-like seniors who would try to target me. She then invited me to join her and her friends, hoping to introduce me to some of her close sisters. It seemed she wanted to play matchmaker, seeing me as the perfect opportunity for her friends to find a partner. Mo Yaje had been watching me for a while, probably because of how I treated the girls in the dorms. Apparently, my habit of delivering food and drinks made me look like the ideal, caring guy to everyone there. The girls thought I was too naive for dating Xiao Chunmei, especially since she played the innocent act so well. But things changed yesterday. Chunmei posted a photo with some older guy, basically announcing that we were finally over. Mo Yaje wanted to comfort me, though she seemed confused that I didn't look heartbroken at all. I felt cheerful. In reality, I was just glad to be rid of her. But I had no idea Mo Yaje actually liked me. She had been envious of Chunmei, thinking a girl like her didn't deserve someone as attentive as me. As we stood by the seaside, the girls invited me to join them, but I had a more pressing concern. I told them I couldn't join in since I was a guy, and more importantly, I was absolutely starving. I suggested they go ahead and play, and maybe we could all meet up again a bit later. Mo Yaje seemed surprised that I declined. She quickly came up with an excuse to join me for dinner. She joked that food tastes better when surrounded by beauties, hinting that they would find me later. I didn't catch her drift. I just thought she was acting a bit strange, almost like she was chasing me. But honestly, my stomach was screaming. At that moment, I felt like I could eat an entire cow. I headed straight for the food stalls and didn't even hesitate, ordering almost everything the first vendor had. The owner looked shocked by my massive appetite, but he was more than happy to take such a big order. While he started grilling the feast, he gave me some peanuts and a edamame to keep me from passing out. I found a spot at a barbecue stand, shielded from the wind and smoke, while I waited for Myriad. I asked the boss to keep the skewers non-spicy, since I wanted my friends to add their own heat later. I started eating, and let's just say I was starving. I polished off 30 skewers in record time. The owner was completely shocked. He had never seen someone eat so fast and asked how long I'd been hungry. I told him I hadn't eaten since last night and offered an extra 200 yuan to speed things up. With the extra cash, the boss was more than happy to crank up the fire and keep the food coming. I kept ordering until the tourists around me started staring, wondering why the food looked so irresistible. When others tried to order, the boss told them I had already booked everything. He was happy to turn them away. Suddenly, my system chimed in with a new task. I had to rescue Myriad from some guy's persistent entanglement. The reward was a luxury yacht and 10 points. Now that sounded like the perfect addition to a beach trip. More importantly, the prompt warned me that Myriad was in a difficult situation and needed my immediate help. I didn't want to leave the boss hanging, so I paid 1,000 yuan deposit to keep the food roasting. With the feast secured for later, I turned and sprinted toward the beach to find Myriad. The beach is massive, making it incredibly difficult to spot anyone, but my system is surprisingly helpful today. It actually provided a reminder, placing a unique marker over Myriad's head that only I am able to see. I'm starting to appreciate this system more and more. It feels like a warm, caring companion, despite its many bugs. I spotted their position at a glance and began moving toward them, my enhanced senses allowing me to hear their conversation clearly. A group of shirtless men had cornered Myriad and her two friends, pressuring them to join their speedboat for some fun. Myriad was visibly annoyed by their persistent pestering, but I quickly realized something was wrong with her two companions. One of the girls, a woman with dyed yellow hair, was actually trying to force Myriad to go along with the men. It became clear that Huang Shan was the reason they were being harassed, as she was actively pulling Myriad toward the danger. The other girl, a cute lolly-style girl named Wan Qing, was trying to protect Myriad by urging her to leave the situation. Myriad tried to pull away, but Huang Shan gripped her arm firmly, refusing to let her escape the group's unwanted attention. The men were becoming increasingly bold, shifting from polite invitations to aggressive threats about what they would do if she refused. They were practically threatening to take them by force, showing they had absolutely no respect for the girls' boundaries or safety. I couldn't just stand by and watch this happen any longer, so I took a step forward and shouted for them to stop. I stepped in just in time, shouting for them to stop. I immediately placed myself between the thugs and Myriad. The three men looked at me with disdain, smelling of wine. They told me to stop playing the hero and leave. Myriad was relieved to see me, but she was worried. She urged me to run and find security for help. I knew better. These guys had been hanging around for a while, and I suspected the security guards might be in on it. Since my mirror washing, my spiritual power has surged. My mind is sharper, allowing me to analyze the situation almost instantly. I used to think that geniuses and novels were unrealistic, but now that it is happening to me, it makes sense. Then there was Huang Shan. She mockingly suggested I just go with them, basically telling me to walk straight into a trap. I shut her down immediately. I told her they could go, but I was staying right here to handle this mess. I rotated my wrists, preparing for the fight. Having reached the master realm, these ordinary men were absolutely no match for me. Even a Haotian practitioner could sweep a crowd of normals, and I am 2 realms higher. I didn't need fancy techniques. The thugs, relying on their numbers, quickly surrounded me. They loved to swarm, but today, they picked the wrong target. I wasn't about to just stand there and wait for death while these thugs tried to intimidate me. The boss thought he could handle me, but I decided to play along with his own arrogance. If he believed one finger was enough to deal with me, then I would use exactly one finger. As a master, using my full strength against ordinary people would have been far too merciful. I moved faster than they could possibly react, striking the boss directly in the chest. I injected a tiny, precise amount of true energy into his heart, a move invisible to the crowd. Suddenly, his face turned bright red and he collapsed to his knees, gasping for air and clutching his chest. His lackeys panicked, but I warned them that trying to pull him up would only kill him faster. I told them he needed artificial respiration immediately or he would suffocate within 3 short minutes. It was a simple trick, but it reminded me how far the realm of a master is from ordinary humans. One of the thugs, a fat man, rushed me in a blind rage, completely unaware of the danger. I dodged his punch with ease and tapped his heart with the same precision as before. He went down just like his boss, though his size seemed to slightly dampen the effect of the strike. I joked about his resilience, then turned my back on them, knowing they were no longer a threat. I looked at the three women, casting a cold, warning glance at the vicious queen, Huang Shan. Turning to Myriad and Yuan, I told them it was finally time to go and eat. I had ordered plenty of food, and I didn't want it getting cold while we stood around. Yeah, as I led the way through the crowded beach, the girls couldn't stop questioning my methods. Myriad and Yuan were fascinated by how I had neutralized those men with just 2 simple clicks. Huang Shan stayed quiet, knowing she had offended me, but I could still feel her hidden disdain. She likely still sees me as the loser dumped by Xiao Chunmei, just playing some unknown tricks. I had to think fast after dealing with those women. I told them I just stepped on their toes secretly. They looked skeptical, but since I was blocking their view, they couldn't prove I had used any martial arts. Just then, a notification popped up. Task completed. I earned 10 points, bringing my total to 100. The reward was a luxury yacht. It is a 3-story vessel, perfect for sleeping, grilling, and relaxing on the water. Thanks to the system, I automatically gained the knowledge to operate it, similar to how I drive my Lamborghini. I couldn't just make it appear out of thin air with people around, so I used the Wanjiegu app. I scheduled the delivery from my villa's private port in 15 minutes, giving me enough time to prepare. I led the 3 girls to a barbecue stall and ordered a massive amount of skewers and drinks. The girls were stunned by the food. I packed everything into foam boxes and we started walking toward the beach. As we walked, Huang Shan finally spoke up. She complained that we were basically acting as my personal laborers. She questioned where I was taking us, wondering why we couldn't just eat on the sand instead. Huang Shan's voice was dripping with disdain, making it clear she regretted not taking that speedboat earlier. I didn't really feel like talking to her, but I knew if I didn't act, she would never stop. I am not some pushover who lets people walk all over me, and her constant provocations were starting to get old. I joked that speedboats were unstable and small, claiming they often overturn before you even get a meal. Myriad and Yuan laughed at my comment, but Huang Shan just saw it as a pathetic excuse. She kept complaining, acting like eating skewers in the wind and sand was some kind of torture. Her attitude was finally pushing Myriad and Yuan away, making them realize her true colors. Myriad stepped in, reminding Huang Shan that I had paid 1,000 yuan for the food we were carrying. Realizing that arguing wouldn't put more food in her mouth, Huang Shan finally went quiet for a moment. I walked ahead with a small smile on my face, knowing something the other 3 did not. The wait was almost over, and my luxury yacht was about to be delivered to the port. I led the girls to the private port of the seaside villa to set up our meal. Predictably, Huang Shan started in again, calling me shameless for trespassing on such expensive private land. Myriad and Yuan grew nervous, knowing these villas cost tens of millions and fearing the consequences. They hurriedly tried to persuade me to leave before we were caught by the owners or security. I was just about to explain the situation when security guards came running toward us, shouting for us to leave. I was just trying to enjoy some food with the girls when Huang Shan started sneering at me. She loved the idea of me getting caught, mocking my lack of money and status while we waited. Myriad and Yuan grew anxious as security approached, urging me to leave before things got any worse. I told them not to worry. I was completely confident that those guards wouldn't be able to drive us away. Surprisingly, Myriad seemed to trust me. She felt my confidence and suddenly felt a bit more at ease. Meanwhile, Huang Shan just smiled, waiting for the moment I would be humiliated and kicked out of the area. The guards didn't take long to find us. They immediately looked at our clothes and decided we didn't belong. Since I didn't look like a rich heir, they assumed we had sneaked into this private seaside zone. Huang Shan didn't miss a beat, immediately telling the guards that it was my idea to eat here. The guards looked at me with disdain, convinced I was just some guy trying to impress beautiful women. They yelled at me, explaining that these villas cost tens of millions and were reserved for high-ranking dignitaries. While Myriad and Yuan were nervous about the prestige of the place, I just smiled indifferently. I wasn't worried about the guards or the rules. I was waiting for something far more important. I checked my phone and saw the time. Finally, my delivery had arrived. I was just trying to get things sorted, but the security guards were already giving me a hard time. They thought I was just some kid bringing junk, but they were cut off by a sudden loud buzzing sound. We all looked up to see a helicopter descending, its powerful wind blowing the guards' hats right off their heads. I was honestly shocked. I knew the Wanjiegu app was efficient, but I didn't expect a full-scale aerial delivery. Hanging beneath the helicopter was a massive iron box, the kind you would see on a giant cargo ship. As the helicopter hovered over the port and lowered the box, a crowd started to gather on the nearby beach. Everyone was staring in awe. It wasn't every day you saw a delivery like this happening right in front of you. I decided it was time to put those security guards in their place. I told them to get lost and clear the crowd. I had bought a villa here, and I expected them to assist me, not treat me like an intruder. The tin box finally opened, revealing a stunning luxury yacht. The guards looked like they were sleepwalking in shock. Just as they were processing it, a black figure suddenly slid down a rope from the helicopter with incredible agility. It was a beautiful black-haired woman in a tactical battlesuit, landing perfectly after a drop of dozens of meters. As she approached me, I felt a heavy sense of oppression. This was the unmistakable pressure of a master realm cultivator. She was far stronger than I was, and her presence alone commanded the entire area. With a stern expression, she presented a courier slip and asked me to sign for my new luxury yacht. I watched as the massive delivery arrived, a scene so grand it felt like a bank transporting gold rather than my personal property. A luxury yacht and a helicopter were being unloaded, protected by a heavy security detail equipped with weapons to ensure my safety. I took the pen and signed the documents, noticing how much smoother my handwriting had become since my marrow washing transformed my physical control. The black-haired beauty who handled the delivery bowed her head, her vivid eyes showing a level of respect that I found quite intriguing. Nearby, the security guards and Huang Shan stood frozen in shock, realizing that I actually owned the villa and the entire port. Huang Shan was visibly regretful, while the guards were terrified of losing their high-paying jobs for pretending to be the masters of this estate. I watched the delivery woman leap onto the helicopter with the grace of a professional acrobat, a feat of human strength that left everyone stunned. Myriad turned to me, her face full of disbelief as she asked if this yacht and villa truly belonged to me alone. I laughed and told her that if it weren't mine, I wouldn't be offering such an exclusive and private experience to my guests. I specifically pointed out that this was my way of making up for Huang Shan missing out on the speedboat earlier. As we stepped inside, the girls gasped at the sheer luxury of the yacht, which boasted the highest possible configuration of comfort. I told them to get comfortable and warned them not to stay too close to the edge so we wouldn't look like animals in a zoo. I steered the boat just under a kilometer from the coast, keeping us safe but far enough to feel the breeze. Eating skewers under the open sky with 3 girls by my side felt surreal, almost like a dream I could not wake from. I tried to look composed, but inside I was just as nervous as they were. This was my first time at sea. It is wild to think how much my life shifted in just 2 days. I was a completely different person back then. Myriad looked at me with curiosity, wondering how I suddenly became so rich and confident compared to who I was. She remembered me as the hard-working guy juggling 2 jobs just to support a girl named Xiao Chu Mei who took me for granted. I needed a cover story for my sudden wealth, so I told them I had inherited a fortune that only recently cleared. I mentioned how Xiao Chu Mei was blind to my value, and that she had already learned the cost of her betrayal this morning. Huang Shan, who used to look down on me, suddenly shifted her tone and offered a sincere apology for her behavior. I forgave her, but I gave her a stern warning about her temper and the dangers of judging people too quickly. I did not want to preach, but I wanted her to understand that not everyone is as forgiving as I am. For a while, the tension vanished. We chatted and laughed, and the atmosphere finally became warm and harmonious. But the peace did not last long. Wen Qing suddenly stopped eating and pointed toward the horizon with a look of shock. She shouted for us to look, and I followed her gaze to see something strange appearing in the distance. I noticed something moving in the distance. Wen Qing pointed it out, and I squinted to see what was approaching us. Thanks to the essence I purified from the Book of Changes, my senses are far beyond those of a normal person. I could clearly see 4 speedboats racing toward us, the people on board looking panicked and driving at full throttle. They screamed a warning as they passed. There was a hole in the bay's defense line, and a shark had broken through. I was stunned. My luck really is something else. Encountering a defense breach and a shark at the same time is unbelievable. Myriad and the girls heard the warnings and started to panic, urging me to get us back to shore immediately. I told them to head back to the cabin for safety while I took over the controls of the yacht. I wasn't afraid of the shark myself. In the Master Realm, I have absolute confidence in my own strength. However, I couldn't guarantee the girls' safety. I only have Bajiquan and Yufeng Bu with very few defensive techniques. The speedboat zoomed past us, warning that the shark wouldn't be held by the fishing nets for much longer. They had to rush back to the beach to evacuate other tourists. The situation was becoming critical very quickly. I realized that anyone swimming in the water was in grave danger if the nets broke before they reached land. Suddenly, my system popped up an emergency mission. I had to repel the sharks and save the tourists. The rewards were tempting: the medical sacred book, the Juhua golden needle, and 50 system points. Even without the mission, I couldn't just sit by. As a decent man, I had to lead by example. Wanqing suddenly yelled. I looked out and saw a shark bursting through a hole in the fishing nets. It had a bag of fish in its mouth. It seems broken glass in the nets had wounded the fish. The scent of blood had drawn the predator in. It's a reminder that littering in the ocean can have deadly consequences. The situation was critical. That shark was moving way too fast for the tourists to reach the shore safely. Even my yacht was too slow to dock in time. I realized there was only one option left. I had to fight. I quickly set the yacht's autopilot to head for the port, ensuring the others would get to safety on their own. I felt a flicker of fear. After all, this was my first time facing a shark in open water. But the excitement outweighed the fear. With my golden silkworm armor and master realm power, I felt secure. I warned Myriad and the others to hide immediately once they hit the coast and stay away from the sea. Myriad suddenly realized my plan. She rushed over and hugged my waist tightly, refusing to let me go. She began to cry, begging me not to be so reckless and worrying about my safety and my family. I tried to push her away, but she held on with surprising strength. I didn't want to hurt her. To calm her down, I joked about her treating me to a massive meal once I returned from the fight. As she relaxed, I seized the moment and struck her neck, knocking her unconscious so I could act quickly. I told Wanqing and Huangshan to look after her. Then I took a deep breath and plunged into the ocean. I darted through the water like a fish, using my true chi to create a barrier that isolated me from the current. Since I am a master, my need for air is low, and I can survive much longer than an ordinary person. Using the Myriad realm's art, I converted my internal energy into the oxygen my body needed to breathe underwater. The only real disadvantage was the fading light. As I dove deeper, the darkness began to hinder my vision. The shark stayed near the surface, which was lucky. I quickly locked onto its position and dove straight into the water. I shot through the waves like a sharp arrow, moving at a speed no ordinary swimmer could ever hope to reach. Back on the yacht, Wanqing was panicked and in tears, terrified that I had just thrown my life away for others. Huangshan was different. Seeing me risk everything stirred something inside her, forcing her to wake up from her own selfishness. I didn't know much about the ocean, but I didn't hesitate as I came face to face with the beast. It wasn't a giant, but it was still massive, easily 4 or 5 times my size with a deadly, hungry maw. I knew I couldn't rely on true energy alone for defense if I wanted to keep breathing and fighting underwater. I activated the golden silkworm armor, wrapping my body in a shimmering gold shell to protect myself and my clothes. The shark sensed me and charged, its bloody mouth wide open, ready to swallow me whole in a single bite. I met its charge head-on with a Bajiquan punch, focusing all my true energy into a single explosive strike. The power was so intense it created a vacuum field in the water, slamming directly into the shark's open jaws. The impact was devastating, knocking several of the monster's teeth clean out of its mouth in an instant. It landed a punch on the shark, and it was in pain instantly, but the blood only made it more fierce. It retreated for a moment, but it wasn't afraid. I decided to hold back for a second and observe the situation. I hadn't even used all my strength. I just tried a tiny bit of true energy to assist my fist. The result surprised me. I created a small vacuum field in the water and knocked out several of the shark's teeth. This creature is barely stronger than a cow, yet I caused this much damage despite the water's natural resistance. I realized I need to learn how to control my power, or I might cause some serious unintended consequences later. The shark refused to repent and charged again. I saw this as the perfect chance to test my golden silkworm armor. I had never had a proper test subject, and while this shark isn't strong, its teeth are certainly sharp. Using my true ki, I spoke directly through the energy and dared the creature to come and bite me. As the shark lunged, I extended my arm and let it bite down with everything it had. I felt the pressure, but nothing more. The golden silkworm armor isolated the force completely, leaving me unscathed. It really is invulnerable. I suspect even bullets couldn't pierce through this defense, giving me a great sense of security. I have only just begun my transformation, and I have no desire to be a hero who dies young. Enough testing. I mobilized a bit more energy and swung my fist directly into the shark's head. The force was immense. It sent the shark flying and triggered a massive wave on the surface of the sea. Looking at the unconscious shark, I felt a bit speechless at the scale of the impact I had caused. I couldn't just leave it in the bay. If other predators found the opening, tourists could be in danger. I grabbed the shark and swam far away, intending to return it to the deep open ocean. I believe all creatures have a right to live, so I threw it back carefully, sparing its life. I watched that shark swim away, realizing the creature had been playing dead this whole time just to trick me. It gave me one last strange look, as if it was memorizing my face before disappearing back into the deep. I didn't think much of it, assuming I wouldn't run into that shark again unless it decided to seek revenge. My main concern now was the massive hole in my boat. I desperately needed something to plug the leak. I called upon my system, hoping for an affordable solution to stop the water from rushing in and sinking me. The system offered a special fishing net and waterproof adhesive for only 1 point, which I bought immediately. As I focused on patching the damage, the tourists were finally reaching the safety of the port on my yacht. Myriad woke up just as they arrived, and the moment she realized I was missing, she completely panicked. Her companions Huangshan and Wanqing tried to soothe her while explaining the sacrifice I had made for them. They told her how I had lured the shark away, buying them the critical time they needed to reach shore. Soon, a rescue team arrived at the port, armed with harpoons and heavy spear guns designed for deep-sea predators. Huangshan provided the exact coordinates where I had been fighting, directing the team toward my last known location. Myriad refused to stay behind, demanding to join the rescue mission regardless of whether I was alive or dead. She felt she owed me her life, and the rescue team eventually agreed to let her come along for the ride. I had risked everything to lure those sharks away, unaware that back on the beach, a rescue mission was forming. Myriad, Huangshan, and little Wanqing refused to stay behind, insisting that they come and save me themselves. The rescue captain let them join, though I suspect he had very little hope that I was still alive. Meanwhile, I was deep underwater, performing some tedious labor to fill the hole I had created during the struggle. Just as I finished the job, a system notification flashed in my mind. I had completed the task. The reward was 50 points and something far more valuable, the Book of the Holy Medicine. As the knowledge flooded my consciousness, I was amazed. This medical skill was incredibly powerful and comprehensive. With this ability, I no longer had to worry about any illness, whether it was a minor ailment or a critical one. My points were now at 149, and with my massive bank deposit, I felt truly secure. I began swimming toward the surface and soon spotted several boats heading my way through the open water. When I finally broke the surface, I saw the rescue team and, to my surprise, Myriad and the girls. Seeing them there warmed my heart. It was a relief to know they had come looking for me. Little Wanqing was the first to spot me, shouting with pure excitement that I was safe and sound. Myriad began urging the driver to hurry, her desperation almost making the poor man feel the pressure. Once they pulled me aboard, Myriad immediately began drying me off with a towel, completely ignoring everyone else. She was so attentive that we probably looked like a young couple to any onlookers on the boat. I told her I could handle it, then noticed the rescue team still searching the water with nervous eyes. I reassured them that the shark had retreated and that I had used a fishing net to seal the hole. The rescue team looked at me with complete confusion, wondering why on earth I had run back into the sea alone. I couldn't exactly tell them I was beaten back by my own system, so I just let them believe it was luck. The captain admired my courage and offered to report my bravery to the authorities to help me with school and jobs. I didn't want the spotlight, though. Attracting too much attention would only complicate my life, so I declined the public recognition. I just asked them to drop me at the port. I already had a yacht, so I didn't need the fame. The 3 girls were still in their swimsuits, but the beach changing rooms were far too crowded to be practical. I offered to let them change at my seaside villa. They were a bit hesitant, but eventually they agreed to come. The moment we stepped inside, they were stunned by the luxury. The decoration and smart furniture were unlike anything they had seen. The smart home system greeted us, calling the villa a humble house. Wanqing jokingly suggested we just sleep on the street. While the girls took their time getting ready, I headed to my bedroom to wash off the salt and seawater. I had suppressed my zenchi to blend in earlier, but now I could finally clean up and return to my normal state. When I finally stepped out, Myriad looked stunning. She thanked me shyly and apologized for causing so much trouble today. She invited me to the Qichuan bar tonight. As soon as she said the name, I realized it sounded incredibly familiar. It clicked then. I actually own 100% of the shares in that bar. It was my own business. Huangshan mentioned my class was having a party there tonight. A quick check of my phone confirmed the news. I told the others to take a break since things had been a bit thrilling. I needed a moment alone in my garage. Walking into the villa's massive garage, I realized I would never have to worry about space for my future car collection. I opened the System Mall interface. While Lamborghinis are cool, I wanted something with a real comfort and a bit more subtlety. As I scrolled through the categories, I was stunned. The system offered everything from armored vehicles to advanced futuristic tech. However, the prices started climbing quickly. I knew I had to look for another bug to get a real deal. That is when I found it. A Rolls-Royce Phantom, long wheelbase version, usually worth millions but listed for only 2 points. I could not resist. I spent the points, and a stunning deep black Rolls-Royce materialized right there in my garage. Stepping inside, I was amazed by the starlit roof and the sheer luxury of the interior. It felt like a bedroom. I decided this was perfect. The black color keeps it low-key, avoiding the zoo-like attention a sports car attracts. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Xiao Xunmei, filled with apologies and a plea for my forgiveness. She mentioned she would be at the party tonight and wanted to apologize in person, but I had no interest in her. Without a second thought, I blocked and deleted her. I am going to the party for my friends, not for her. I finally made it back to the villa, where Myriad was waiting for me with a welcoming smile. She trotted over and fed me a piece of fruit by hand, which felt a bit strange but quite pleasant. I joked that I was late because I was checking my cars, fearing someone might mess with my tires. It was nearly 7 o'clock, and with the party starting at 7:30, I knew we had to leave immediately. I noticed some high-end fruit on the table and asked where it came from, sparking a smile from the girls. Wanqing told me the security guards had left it as an apology, practically begging for my forgiveness after their behavior. I didn't have the energy to argue with them anymore, so I focused on getting us to the party on time. I wasn't worried about the drinking because my Dantian Zenki could purify alcohol instantly thanks to my master's training. When I led the girls to the garage, their jaws dropped at the sight of my Lamborghini and Rolls-Royce Phantom. They were stunned by the luxury, though they already knew I had money from my villa and yacht. Being a gentleman, I opened the doors for them, and somehow, Myriad ended up in the front passenger seat. The ride was smooth until we approached the bar, where a female traffic officer signaled for me to pull over. As I looked at her, I noticed something unusual protruding from her waist, tucked away behind her uniform. It was a pistol, which seemed far too aggressive for a simple traffic stop, reminding me of a crime movie. She demanded my license and ID with a cold, piercing tone, as if I had somehow personally offended her. I was just trying to get everyone to our destination, but the female police officer had a very specific look in her eyes. She saw me in a luxury car with 3 beautiful women and immediately pegged me as some kind of playboy scumbag. I looked at the girls, hoping they would help me prove my innocence, but they just shook their heads and watched. Wang Shan decided to twist the knife, acting all cute while telling the officer we were rushing to a hotel. The officer gave me a look of pure contempt. As she handed back my papers, she whispered one word: scumbag. As soon as the window rolled up, the car erupted in laughter. Even the reserved Myriad couldn't help herself. We eventually reached the Qishuan bar. The parking lot was packed, but I spotted one empty space marked bar owner. I pulled right in, only to have an Audi start blaring its horn behind me. Some guy was clearly furious. A man stepped out, acting incredibly arrogant. He threatened to rip a wheel off my car if I didn't move. I noticed his badge. He was the manager of the Qishuan bar, and he was acting like he owned the place. The irony is that, thanks to the system, I actually own 100% of this entire establishment, but I couldn't just claim it yet. If I did and it went wrong, I would be a total laughingstock. I pulled up to the Qishuan bar, noticing the sign for the boss's exclusive parking space. I decided to play it cool and test the staff's attitude before revealing I was the new owner. That is when the manager approached me, his face twisted with a smug and condescending expression. He mocked my classic car, calling it a fake and bragging about his own expensive new Audi. He was so blinded by arrogance that he couldn't even recognize the Rolls-Royce emblem on my wheels. Even my genuine high-status license plate didn't impress him, as he assumed a young man couldn't own it. Myriad stepped in to defend me, her voice laced with anger at the manager's blatant rudeness. But instead of backing down, the manager turned his attention toward her and the girls with a disgusting offer. He suggested that if Myriad came inside for a drink with him, I could keep my parking spot. My patience snapped instantly. I can handle insults to myself, but I will not tolerate disrespect toward my friends. I stepped forward quickly, gripping the manager's shoulder before he even realized I had moved. He tried to shake me off, but my grip felt like 1,000 pounds, forcing his leg to buckle. I looked him in the eye and told him clearly that his employment at the bar was officially over. He started screaming, demanding to know who I thought I was to fire the manager of Qishuan Bar. He bragged about the new boss's deep background, completely unaware that he was staring right at him. I looked at the manager and asked if he knew who his new boss was. It was a symbolic question. My system had been quite domineering, dismissing the former owner and transferring the shares directly to me. The manager seemed uneasy. He mentioned the new boss's name was Lin, but he had no idea it was me. To clear things up, I pulled out my driver's license and placed it right in front of his eyes. My name was clear, and right next to it was the registration for my Rolls-Royce Phantom. The manager froze. He looked at the luxury car behind me and realized he had mistaken it for junk. He collapsed to the ground in shock, crawling toward the car to confirm the logo and the interior. Suddenly, his attitude shifted. He started flattering me, begging for forgiveness for his previous rudeness. I wasn't interested in his sudden change of heart, so I signaled Myriad and the others to follow me. He tried to keep up, but I stopped him with a few quick instructions about my plans for the night. I told him to park the car and prepare some top-tier amenities for my upcoming class reunion. I warned him not to use any defective products just to fill the numbers. He quickly agreed, desperate to please. We entered the Yuan bar, and the name finally made sense. The place was an explosion of colorful lights. 7 beams of light shone down on dancers, creating an atmosphere that was already reaching a fever pitch. We immediately drew a crowd. A man with 3 beautiful women always attracts attention, especially when they look like students. I could feel the malicious gazes of the people around us, but I stayed focused and alert. I mapped out everyone's position. If anyone dared to make a move, I would remove the obstacle immediately. I tried to hurry the 3 beauties along because they were already attracting a crowd of hungry wolves, but they just strolled leisurely, laughing at my concern and reminding me that I actually own this bar. Yuan pointed out that as the boss, I had total control, so there was nothing for us to fear. I sighed, wondering why I even agreed to bring them along, but I couldn't just let them walk away. We finally reached the private room, which was massive. These rich second-generation types really know how to spend. Myriad joked that no matter how rich the guests are, the money still ends up in my pocket. I told him to keep a low profile and stay quiet, though with 3 girls that was nearly impossible. As we entered, the people inside assumed I just happened to walk in with them by chance. The room was filled with people who thought I was a loser after being dumped by my ex, Xiao Xunmei. They believed she had run off with some small boss who owned a billiard hall, leaving me in the dust. To them, my presence here was a joke. They thought I had the nerve to show up and be humiliated. I could feel them whispering behind my back, eager to see the drama unfold when my ex arrived. Suddenly, my old roommate Wang Shi rushed over, whispering for me to leave before I became a laughingstock. Wang Shi was one of the few who actually cared about me, trying to protect my dignity from the crowd. I just smiled at him. If everyone is waiting for a good show, I'll be happy to give them one. The breakup didn't bother me. I decided to stay, grab a drink, and let the real game begin. I caught up with Wang Shi and we immediately hit it off, chatting like we hadn't spent a day apart. I could feel the strange looks from the people around us, but I just ignored them all completely. Wang Shi started venting about his family, complaining how his aunts were trying to force him into blind dates. Then he noticed the 3 girls following me. He looked shocked, wondering how I'd ended up with them. I kept it casual, telling him we met at the beach and decided to come to the party together. To avoid the crowd, I pulled him aside to a more remote area where we could actually talk. The girls followed along, making us look like a small, exclusive group, which definitely drew more curious eyes. Yuan had a mischievous glint in her eye and intentionally pushed Myriad to sit right next to me. We ended up with Wang Shi on my right and Myriad on my left, effectively blocking everyone else out. Trying to be a gentleman, Wang Shi stuttered a bit while offering to get drinks for the 3 ladies. I just smiled and told him to stay put, mentioning that someone would be delivering our orders soon. He started lecturing me about my budget, thinking I was spending money I didn't have to heal a broken heart. The girls gave me weird looks, clearly amused that Wang Shi had no clue about my actual financial status. I looked around the dormitory and realized it was surprisingly empty. I asked my friend Wang Shi where everyone had gone. He told me that most people had already left with their girlfriends since this party was basically a giant blind date. Wang Shi sighed, explaining that single guys like us were only there to serve as a foil for the wealthy. I could hear the envy in his voice. It is a harsh reality that some are simply born with golden spoons. However, my mentality had changed completely now that I had the system. I felt a sudden desire to help others. I knew that with my system, I would soon build an empire and provide opportunities for those who were truly motivated. I told Wang Shi that if he followed me, he would have a bright future. I was being quite bold. Myriad and the others were amused, laughing because I sounded like a strange uncle trying to trick children. Wang Shi just laughed it off, saying he didn't need to be rich as long as he could eat and drink. He had no idea that my words today would eventually turn him into a legendary commercial giant in the future. As 8 o'clock approached, the real hosts of the gathering arrived. These were the rich second generation of Jinghai City. Wang Shi muttered with dislike when he saw Lu Ye and Qian Zijian enter, as both had terrible reputations. I told the group to just stay low and avoid provocation. As long as they ignored us, everything would be fine. I asked Wang Shi to grab some juice, while I stayed close to the girls to ensure their safety. Just as Wang Shi returned, the door swung open and a group of sleazy-looking men walked into the private room. They scanned the crowd with predatory eyes, and their gaze stopped directly on Mo Yajie and her friends. I knew the moment they stepped inside. These were the same people from the bar, eyes fixed on us like predators. They hadn't just wanted a seat, they were targeting the girls. In this world, I've learned that beauty can be a dangerous invitation. Wang Shi was trembling beside me, his honesty making his fear obvious. I told him to stay calm and let the situation unfold. I decided to let the others handle the initial confrontation. It would be quite a show to see these rich bullies face real street muscle. Lu Yue and Qian Zijian stood up, trying to look brave despite their obvious nerves. They were the type of kids who had money but no backbone. The bullies didn't give them a chance to speak. They shoved them back onto the sofa with a sneer of pure arrogance. One of the big guys claimed the manager was his brother, thinking their status would give them a free pass to do whatever they wanted. I watched the scene unfold with a mix of amusement and indifference. They were so incredibly spineless, it was almost pathetic to witness. Just as they moved to press their advantage, the door swung open. Manager Han entered with a snack cart, his face instantly shifting. He caught the tension immediately. He knew my position and realized these thugs were making a grave mistake by approaching me. With practice speed, he stepped in, offering snacks and a polite apology to the room while ushering the thugs out. He didn't need to say a word to me. I gave him a slight shake of my head, letting him handle the mess quietly. Everyone in the private box was puzzled by Manager Han's sudden change in attitude, but some people were quick to flatter. They convinced Lu Ye and Qian Zijian that the manager was simply showing respect for their high social status. Believing the lie, the two young masters played along, acting as if it were only natural for Brother Hu to be removed. Then the food arrived, and even Lu Yu and Qian Zijian gasped at the sheer extravagance of the spread. It was the Haoshan set, a menu far more expensive than the usual luxury options, costing a staggering amount of money. I knew the truth, but I watched as they enjoyed the luxury, knowing they weren't actually as rich as they pretended. Their families had some assets, but they lived on limited monthly allowances and could rarely afford this level of indulgence. They felt like they had just been handed a golden opportunity, unaware that their perceived status was a complete misunderstanding. I decided to keep a low profile, leisurely sipping fruit juice with Wang Shi and the three girls. Wang Shi mentioned that Brother Hu was quite famous in this area and even held influence over our school's territory. I joked with him about his impressive intelligence network, wondering if he was planning a future career as a spy. For a while I thought the party would end without any more incidents, but peace never lasts long for me. After a few glasses of wine, Lu Ye and Qian Zijian stood up and began walking straight toward me,